And we should get a streaming in progress here shortly. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. Today we have Mr. Jeff Sharp, the director of Everyday Sunshine Thrift Store in Decatur, Alabama. And we're going to be talking about employment and community opportunities in Decatur and entertainment around the world. At this point, I'd like to hand it over. Mr. Sharp, if you would introduce yourself.
My name is Jeff Sharp. I am from Decatur, Alabama, as you said, and I am the director and co-founder of Everyday Sunshine. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Our mission is to make the world a little bit more inclusive to those living with a disability.
Now, are you originally from Alabama?
Yes, I was born and raised in Decatur.
Okay. We always like to ask, who's your team?
Auburn.
Okay.
You know, I can't talk too loud right now, but yeah, Auburn's my team.
Yeah, very cool. So take us through a little bit of Everyday Sunshine. Where did the idea for this 501c3 come from?
We have a 16-year-old daughter. Her name is Amelie. And when she was born, she had cataracts on both eyes. And so she started going to Callahan Eye Foundation and Children's Hospital when she was 2 days old. And at the time, she was our only child. We didn't know anything different. That was our only experience with parenthood. And it started, you know, like at Children's. And we were like really blown away by how amazing it is, how the people who work there are unbelievable at their job. They want to be there. That's like their passion. And so as Amelie started growing and we learned more and more and more about her.
How long was she at Children's, if you don't mind me asking?
Just off and on. We never spent long periods, but she had 2 surgeries within the first 2 months, and to remove cataracts, and then we started noticing other things weren't progressing, and like where other kids were hitting milestones, Amelie was not. And we got involved with the early intervention. And
it's nice to be in that children's environment where you're kind of surrounded, where maybe if they're not hitting those milestones, they can be picked up quicker. And you have somebody right down the hall that can say, that's our department, come on over. Yes.
And like I said, since she was our first child, we didn't have anything to put it up against. So her doctors and people like that were saying, hey, you know, maybe something's going on with her mental capacity, but you know, you can't really tell with a baby.
Yeah.
And so like when she was 3 months old, they gave her contact lenses. So I don't know if you've ever had seen a newborn baby with contact lenses, but it doesn't work, by the way.
I imagine they would just keep going for their eyes because it's something unnatural.
Yes, but since she had patches and other things on her eyes since the beginning, so I think she kind of accepted that. But I remember being at the bookstore one day and seeing like, what's that on your shirt? And looking down, I'm like, oh, it's both of your contacts. And it's because she has glaucoma and the pressure goes up and down. And when the pressure would change, and would pop it out.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so we started seeing people, and they were saying like, maybe you should see this specialist. So it was a team of people, you know, and if they didn't know, they would send you to this person.
Yeah,
which is great.
It's really nice having that center. I feel like Birmingham is kind of that center for the Southeast in a way.
Big time. And every time we were in Birmingham, we would meet people, and hardly ever did we meet people from Alabama. They're coming from all over the place. And especially for certain things, Birmingham is the spot. It's like Birmingham and then, you know, Boston, or, you know, there's a lot of people who go to Birmingham over Vandy for these things. But anyway, so we just started seeing lack of progress in some things. And Amelie didn't get her full diagnosis until she was 10 years old, and she's 16 now. And they said, well, she has tub 5. And we said, what does that mean? And the doctor literally said, we have no idea. He said, you should start a Facebook page. And we started laughing. And he said, seriously, you should start a Facebook page. And we just thought, if he's like a leading guy and he has no clue, then what are we supposed to do? So I look on Facebook, and at the time, so TUB is short for tubulinopathy.
Okay.
And at this point in time, when we joined this Facebook page, we were the second family in the world with TUB 5. So it's pretty much your corpus callosum, your bridge between your brain hemispheres. So Amelie has gaps in hers, and so parts of her brain don't talk to each other. Like she can tell you literally what someone wore on Thanksgiving 10 years ago.
Yep.
She cannot tell you if she just brushed her teeth. And so that's
yeah, it's a little misfiring there. If it's not the barrier there, they don't have the connections to kind of go as others would.
Yes. And part of her diagnosis is her reasoning center is never fully developed.
Okay.
So this morning we had an argument over clothing, as a lot of parents and kids do. We had an argument over a shirt, and if her shirt is wrinkled or not. And I said, no, I just tumbled your shirt in the dryer and made sure it was not wrinkled. But you know, it's one of those, it's an everyday challenge. We just have to pick our battles.
Now, is she at the point where she's taking maybe some of her mom's shirts and those kinds of things? I feel like that's a teenager daughter and mom thing where they're trying on the different clothing.
Her personal style, we've always told her, if it's weather appropriate, you do you.
I love it.
So, I have, normally I have on like flowers and things like that. And that's kind of the part of the way I express myself. And so we always told her, if you're not going to burn up or freeze, if you want to wear this, wear it. So she very much, she's going to see this years from now and say, that's not cool, Dad. But Amelie very much dresses like a 6 or 7 year old boy. Her thing is t-shirts. She wants to wear a Star Wars t-shirt or something similar, blue jeans and Vans.
I dig it.
Me too. And I don't have a problem in the world with it. Her 5-year-old sister is very frilly, and she always wants Amelie to wear dressy girl clothes, and Amelie says, no, that's not me.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, that expression, how we dress. It really is, a lot of expression, how we present ourselves to others in the community.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like parents of young children, and even as they get older, if there is some disability, they try to control that. It's very important to gain confidence there for the individual to have those freedoms of expression that can carry on further in life. I want to jump back a little bit. You mentioned that one of the leading professionals said you should start a Facebook page.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and screen share your Facebook, Everyday Sunshine's Facebook page here. You can see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I feel like that happens quite a bit in the disability community, is that everyone is so unique, and the diagnoses are so unique. And so sometimes it comes to the families to make these connections with other families,
Yes.
to help figure these things out. So for the audience, you guys need to go Everyday Sunshine on Facebook, facebook.com/Everyday Sunshine Thrift. Become one of the more than 1,000 followers here. And I think I saw a picture of Amelie here.
That's her.
There she is. So she's getting a cameo right now.
The one and only. That's Amelie. That's Travis.
So if you guys want to scroll through those, I don't know if I have to ask for permission before we share those, but become a part of the group here and you can see all of them. Why we're here. So this is the store.
Yes. So 6 weeks ago, we opened a thrift store to employ adults with disabilities. And the way that came about was when we started taking Amelie to different functions, we were meeting other parents of kids with all different kinds of um, all ages and abilities. That was one of our things is we met people, and one of the reoccurring themes was when you age out of school at 20, 21, when you leave school, the unemployment rate is, it goes back and forth between like 78 and like 82% if you have an intellectual disability.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we were saying was if any other segment of society had this problem, there would be a riot. People would lose their minds. This
Yep.
would not stand. It just would not stand.
It would be on every TV and every household.
Yes, this would be, if the unemployment rate was this high for anybody else, for every election, this would be the number one thing you talk about.
Now
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say, but with until people advocate and raise hands and say, whoa, wait a minute, what about these guys?
Mm-hmm.
And until the advocating is rampant, there's the lobby for people who have disabilities is not as big as other lobbies. They don't have as big of a megaphone.
And there's not as much money spent in the disability community as there are others. Now, I do believe in the last 10 so years, there's been a lot more attention on employment in the disability community. And you can see some of that by these work incentive programs, community waiver program types of things, where they're really incentivizing some of the organizations like ADRS to start working and trying to get gainful employment. And we've heard through a few of our guests that a silver lining of COVID has been that employers are looking for other employees, and one of those communities has been the disability community. So the past 2 to 3 years has actually been very good for employment in disability. And a lot of what the employers are finding is that these individuals that are coming from this community are working harder and doing better work than other employees in the office. And now they're starting to say, we need to have more individuals, a more well-rounded team come in. So I think for a long time, it focused more on veterans, starting back World War I.
Sure.
But now we've evolved in the past, 10, 15 years where we're including more intellectual disabilities into the workforce. And that's an exciting thing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree 100%. I think that in times past that there were, for a long time, if you had an intellectual disability, a lot of times your family hid you away and pretended you didn't exist, or they definitely didn't introduce you to society or try to get you out, and it was accepted that you were not going to have a job.
Yep.
It wasn't
It was a limiting belief put on you by others.
Yes, 100%. But I think other people too fed into it, and they thought, well, they can't do this. They can't. So instead of giving them a chance, they just said, well, they can't do that. So, there weren't options and chances.
So you're thinking about this, and when did this thought process of the work start to pop up for you?
About 6 years ago, somewhere in there, where when we started talking to other parents and they were telling us about, our kid graduated and now they're on YouTube and now they hang out and are looking for something to do. And we thought, well, what is Amelie going to do when she gets older? And so we started looking around, and I was looking for options. My wife worked for a computer company. I was a bartender for 15 years. And so originally when we were kicking around the idea of what can we do to create a few jobs and start doing social, like a social thing to where when you come in, I go, "Oh, hey, Alex," and you're like, "Hey, Jeff," and it's not like there's wheelchair Alex, or it's like, uh, it's making friendships and it's socializing and it's jobs. And so we were looking to do something, and we thought it was going to be a cafe.
Okay.
And then when we started doing research, we saw Biddy and Bose. Shout out Biddy and Bose. Shout out Howdy Homemade in Dallas. They do ice cream. Uh, there is I wish I could think of the name. There's a coffee roaster in Maryland. All of their employees have disabilities.
And were you reaching out to these organizations and just kind of picking their brain?
Yes. And some of them, they're busy and doing their thing, and they, I would just not, we weren't blown off, but it wasn't like, let me show you. But Howdy Homemade, they were like, if we can do this, you can do this.
Yeah.
And they were like, let us show you how and all this. And were really encouraging us. And so when we were checking this out, one of the things that I accidentally ran across one day was our thrift store in Franklin, Tennessee. And I thought, well, that's interesting, so I reached out, and Dave Krikak is the founder, and he said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Decatur, Alabama. And he said, well, that's, an hour and a half, come up. So we took our whole crew up, our whole family up one day, and he gave us the grand tour. And he said, with food, you have to buy cheese and bread or whatever. You're buying all these things. He said, with thrift, if you're a 501c3, people can donate goods to you today.
Yeah.
In fact, the day that we met him, he offered us an 18-wheeler full of clothes. I'm not exaggerating. And at the time, we didn't have a store. We didn't have anything. And he said I think he had 3 18-wheelers full of donations. And he said, I would never even miss it. Take it. And he said, your problem is not going to be donations, especially if you have a mission. He said, your problem is going to be finding the people who can sort it and do this. He said, that's the whole ball game, is finding people to come in and figuring out what are they good at, what do they like, what do they hate. So they're not, it's not a sympathy job. You're saying, hey, Alex, what do you like to do? And you say, I like to sort, or I like to do things repetitively, or I do not want to do the same thing over and over.
Yep.
And then we figure out who goes in what position and just try it out.
Now, it's so important to align what you're good at and what you enjoy doing to what you're going to do every day, because it's just going to put you in a positive mood and you're going to be better at it. If you could talk about kind of the feeling that you got walking into that thrift store in Tennessee.
Oh, it was amazing. And I think at the height of everything with Dave, I think they had 50 employees, and between 25 and 30 had different disabilities.
Wow.
And it was a machine, and he was telling us that like the turnover rate there was almost zero. And the whole thing is, like in restaurant, turnover rate is crazy.
Yeah.
So I was used to people just being like, deuces, I'm out. Like, this is not for me.
You see it a lot in the caregiving industry as well.
Well, that might be to where it pulls on you, and it's a stressful thing. At the restaurant, you leave a restaurant, when you leave, it stays behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not losing sleep, over
Thinking about that. So
over customers.
50 employees, almost 30 of them are individuals with disabilities.
Yes.
And it's a full running machine. That's absolutely amazing. So gadzooks to him. For one thing that I'm noticing is you continually kind of make references to peer support. So for instance, when Amelie was 10, you started talking to other parents, other families where their sons or daughters were a little bit older, and they were talking about graduation and work. And
Yes.
so that's what got you into this mindset. Then again, you started reaching out to organizations that were opening up businesses that were, focused on employing individuals with disabilities. And I'm sensing that this ability to reach out and find almost mentors or peers has really been a big thing for navigating this process for you.
Yes, because my wife and I knew zero. I mean, we had both worked retail, but we knew zero about this.
Mhm.
Our background, we were not coming from oh, we're about to get rich doing this, because we're a nonprofit anyway. Our background was, who can we help? How can this ripple? But is one of the things that has been a recurring theme, we've only been open 6 weeks, is people come in and they're like, yesterday, for example, a lady came in, she works with domestic abuse victims, and she has a child who's in their custody.
Mhm.
And she was saying, well, I think something's going on intellectually. It's been a bad situation, and they finally got away, and now they're in this protective agency, but they realize like this kid needs services.
Yeah.
And she was like, do you know anything about this? And I said, yes, I'll make a phone call. So I reach out to Nancy at ADRS. Nancy reaches out, and it's spiderwebs, and they're like, we'll take care of this. So that's one of the things that we've noticed is people coming in who, like, maybe because we work with people with disabilities, they think that I can fill out a waiver. I cannot.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. Our hope and goal is to be a conduit to connect people to do good stuff.
It's amazing that sometimes those departments don't link up. And it takes individuals like yourself and organizations to kind of make those connections or first introductions. And you'll see sometimes a lot of, even though it's not within one individual, but if you have some SU, substance abuse or abuse in a household, maybe there's somebody else that is experiencing another disability. And even though those would fall under the Department of Mental Health, we got to connect them because they're kind of separate in a way. And so making those connections is I always feel kind of bad when I have the ability to introduce somebody to it, because I want it to happen instantly, but sometimes it takes a few months to get the system up and running to support that individual.
Sure.
So that's always kind of, it's not going to happen instantly, but to have those things like you're talking about, make that difference, that's going to make a difference for that child for, years. The more early intervention that's invested early pays dividends over a lifetime.
Yes, definitely.
Go ahead. I cut you off there.
No, definitely. I was thinking, like, if this child was in a domestic issue, they weren't if it was bad enough that they're in this situation now, this child who has these needs was not the top priority. It was safety and getting away was the top priority. And then they were like, now we can take care of this child. And I just think, like, if they were still in that abusive situation, this child might not going to be getting help.
Yeah. Until maybe somebody else noticed at the school system.
Yes.
Or anything like that. So speaking of your family's journey in Amelie, how did that school system go? Transitioning into the school system, those types of.
The very first daycare that we tried, Amelie she didn't walk until she was 3 years old. And there were some daycares that were like, unless you can walk, like, we can't do anything with you. So at the time, she has cerebral palsy, and we didn't even know. It was like, but anyway, so there were like daycares that were like, we can't do anything. And then the first daycare that took her, one day I go and there are kids playing all over the place, and they have her in a high chair in the corner. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, we don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And I'm like, she's not gonna break. Can you try? Can you watching other kids play is not that fun. Can you do something? And they're like, no, we're not equipped for this. And it was pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And um, so then someone reached out and they had a developmental background, and they were in charge of a new daycare, and they um, invited us. They're
Oh,
like, hey, we want you in this program.
yep. Was it
So
like a mixed program where you had
yes,
individuals with disabilities and then those that didn't?
yes,
That's awesome. I think every, early classroom like that should be, as much as we can, should be integrated.
yes. And I think, like anything else that's a difference, you know, like if you and I grow up together and I use a cane, and but you've always known me to have a cane, then when we're teenagers, you're not like, Jeff is weird, or he's blind, he's not cool, or what. There's like weird stigma. But if you're together from the beginning, that's just your friend. It has nothing to do with your ability or whatever. You're just,
You're still friends throughout that. And then even, if I see somebody in the community that has a cane, oh, my buddy Jeff's got a cane. I'm not unfamiliar with this. I'm not
yes,
discriminating in any way. I'm cool with this. I've been a
yes,
part of this before, whether that's a wheelchair or any type of
right.
thing there.
One of the things about Biddy and Bose, again, shout out, was that they said that their operation is a what did she say? They said it's a civil rights movement disguised as a coffee shop.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's like one of those things to where I'm sure people who don't or are not associated with people who have disabilities, and they're like, okay, whatever. But then, if you have a personal connection to it, and you think about it, and you're like, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think of civil rights and kind of the movement behind that as being late 60s, early 70s.
Right.
But a lot of that, especially in the disability community, is still going on
Yes.
for parents and for families, still fighting for those rights.
Yes.
And
But in one way, I don't think it's intentional. I think that people don't know. So again, if you don't have a personal connection to it, like if you're, like, because you're Aunt Bridget,
mhm.
I know because of Amelie and this stuff. Before we had Amelie, I didn't have a personal connection to anybody in my family or personal close friends with a disability. I just didn't.
And I think that's where that integrated classroom early on really benefits our future generations.
Yes.
And so we can get in there and have contact with individuals that are
Yeah.
not exactly like ourselves or what we see when we come home from work in our family every day.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It normalizes the social thing. And one of the things that when we're in public, if people are staring at Amelie, she's got her cane, she wears a scoliosis brace, she's had AFO leg braces before, and people are kind of side-eyeing and stuff, I'll always say, hey, and if it's kids, I'm always like, hey, how are you? And then they're like, what's going on with her? And I'll say, ask her. And they'll say, why do you have that stick? And she'll say, oh, this is my cane. It doesn't hurt her feelings. She's happy to talk to you about whatever. But if adults do it, give me a break. I have to bite my tongue.
Yeah. No, it's so sometimes my Aunt Bridget will go to Sunday school. And I remember when we first went to this new church, the other kids are probably 4 to 6, something like that in this class. And my Aunt Bridget really loves being around kids 4 to 6, drawing, creating stuff, those types of things. The first day she was sitting, she's in her wheelchair, so she needs a wheelchair to get around. And she's also nonverbal. and the kids were very off. Even when stories were going on, they wouldn't look at the presenter of the story that was leading the Sunday school. They would be looking over at my aunt, and just kind of like, what is going on here? I'm not familiar with this. And we started breaking out into groups after the short sermon in the Sunday school. And a few of them that I would notice were just keep looking at my aunt. And I was like, hey, why don't y'all come over? She loves the color, those types of things. And they were hesitant at first. By the end of that Sunday school program, they're right with her, handing her pieces of paper, handing her crayons, and then the next week, it's just like that all over again, where they're all involved there. But it takes sometimes a little bit of breaking that barrier, especially for young kids.
Right.
No.
And, and something that I have to say that I'm totally guilty of this. I'm going to raise my hand and say I'm guilty of this. If when I meet a person, like say if you and Bridget are together and I see you in the grocery store, sometimes I have to remind myself to talk to her instead of asking you about her. And I'm working on it, but it's a total common thing. Or if I'm talking to her, like the way I see other people talk to Amelie sometimes, it's like really loud and really slow. And I'm kind of like, what's going on? And she'll say like, why are they doing that?
Trying to overcompensate.
Yes. But it's taught behavior, or it's like we're talking about, it's something that's unknown.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we don't know, it's awkward, but it's cooler to have a conversation, and ask, or,
It's tough for me. Sometimes I get the urge when I'm out in public, like if my aunt and I aren't together, and I'm just at the food store or something like that, and I notice an individual, or they're with their parents or their family, I want to go up and engage, but they're like, why is this person so interested? And I'm like, oh, I have a family member myself. But
yes, I'm the same.
so,
But
go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I think that's from a good place though, to where you're like, you want to say to them, like, I see you, like to where some people are like, like, I'm not looking at you, or I'm looking at you, but I'm not going to talk to you. You're like, I see you.
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys feel welcome in this community.
Yes.
Those types of things. All right, so back to the school. So a little bit, some of the challenges there in early education of making sure the classroom is integrated. But how about like Kata? She's 16 now, so that's sophomore, junior.
She is a freshman. She did kindergarten twice, and she will go until she is 21. So she actually is a freshman.
Okay. If you could talk a little bit about a success story of Amelie maybe having a challenge. It doesn't have to be school related, but then really surprising you and her family about her ability to overcome that challenge.
Let's see. It's funny. She has always been hyper social. Like I'm chatty, I can talk. And Amelie is very, very, very social. And so she's 16. I would say her mental age, quote unquote, is probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
So
my aunt's is about 18 months.
Okay. So there was a lot of stuff that she didn't, if beyond finger math to her is Russian. It's like you're a NASA engineer. If you go beyond finger math to her, it's just like, it's
like when I get to letters and numbers together, I'm like, nope, count me out. And it's like 3x plus 3. I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
100%. So Amelie is she had some teachers who when she was in inclusive programs, and they just like really latched onto her, and they babied her, and we babied her. I'm gonna admit that too. So we babied her. And then there were some teachers who were like, she is never going to progress if you guys are talking for her, if you're doing her work for her, if you're doing this and this, and kind of tough loved on her, which it's hard at the time, but it helped. And she was, and one year in particular, the teacher is amazing, but she did not, you know, she did not cater to Amelie as far as this. She was like, these are the spelling words. These are the math problems. You know, if, you know, I know it is hard for you, but when Amelie says, she's like, I can't do this, I always say I'm having trouble doing this.
Reframing that.
Yes, I'm like, this, say you're having trouble. And but part of it is, she needed people to push her and say, like, you can sound words out. You
Yeah.
can.
Was she a little bit, did she go from like loving school to being like, I don't like school anymore because of that pushback from that teacher?
No, she was always fine with it.
Okay.
The only problem was when we were doing homework, and it would literally be, 2 pages of math, and it's going to take us like 90 minutes to do it. And everybody in our family is on the verge of screaming and saying terrible things because it's hard, and after, for someone who's like I said, her reasoning center is like, why are you torturing me? Like, I understand it's schoolwork, but I've already been to school. Now I have to sit here for an hour and a half and keep doing the same whatever problems. But I said, this is learning.
Yeah, this is reiterating. I had that conversation last night with my girlfriend's 7-year-old. It's like, no, we're doing these right now. These
Yes,
math problems.
yes. And we would just tell her, like, this is not fun for us either, but this is how you learn, and you're in school to figure this out. And one of the things we always tell her too is like, I am not always going to be here. Of course I want to be, but you know, if no one is around and you're like trying to figure out what time it is, you know, if there's an analog clock, or you're trying to give change back, you're trying to count money, and I'm like, we're not always going to be standing right here. So you have to figure these things out.
Yeah. You mentioned that Amelie is very outgoing. And I'm hearing other phrases that tell me she's pretty confident.
I don't know if she's confident or if she doesn't. I'm trying to think how to say this without, I don't want to slight her at all. Or if she doesn't know that to not be.
Yeah.
Or she doesn't, like, she doesn't
She's not worried about, I think a lot of times when some people aren't confident in social situations, it's because how they might be perceived if they're not perfect in somebody's eyes. But she's just like, I'm me. I'm not even thinking about that.
Yes. And what, that's one of the things that we've talked about that is really beautiful about her situation is like, she doesn't judge anybody for anything. And like, we pulled up next to a car one day, and this car, every panel was literally a different color. You could tell it had been wrecked and like put together. And she said, that car is the most beautiful car. And I turned and so I was just thinking, like, 98% of the general population would not want to be seen in that car. And she thought like that was it.
But yeah, like, that's a beautiful car. We're not going to drive next to it, but we can watch it from afar.
Right. And like hand-me-downs or anything like that, she thinks like hand-me-downs is like, this person thought I was cool enough to give me their shirt that, whatever. And so she just sees things in a really cool flipped way.
Now, has she mentioned like really wanting to work or be involved in things outside of the house with a different crew of people?
She has mentioned work, but she had told us as soon as we started as soon as the thrift came into view, she said, I'm going to work in the toy section.
Okay.
And um,
She would be right next to my aunt there, because that is exactly what my aunt would want to be doing.
right. But it's really funny. Some of the people that have come in to work with us, like that's not their thing. They're like, I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
It's loud in the toy section. There are kids over there making a mess, and whatever. But um, but yeah, so she wants to do toys, but I'm sure, and she helps on Saturdays. So on Saturdays, she unofficially works with us and helps do things.
So you're going through this process of, thinking about your own daughter and what that's going to look like for her after the education system. And then thinking about how can we take what we want to help for our daughter and help other families and really grow an organization and a community around it. Then went to other organizations that were already doing it to learn how to get to that step. How do you go from speaking to these organizations to involving the church that you guys operate out of and ADRS and other partners and bringing everybody together and making it real, I guess, because I feel like there are parents in the community that have similar ideas, whether that's they want to do something like you're doing, or maybe it's more residential focus,
Yes.
integrated residential. Talk a little bit about, just the steps that you have to do and the mentality that you have to do going from idea to creation.
Okay. Well, so we started in 2012 and we were playing concerts. We were putting on puppet shows. We were doing karaoke parties, dance, revolution, blowouts. I don't know what all these things were, but pretty much like if there was any organization that needed entertainment for like a parents' night out, for like a disabilities parents' night out, which there's a few things in Decatur that are really cool, that they're like, you guys need time to go to the grocery store by yourself or actually go to a restaurant and talk to each other. Like you guys go out, we'll watch the kids. So we got involved with that. And then when people heard like, oh, uh, these guys play concerts, so they'll do puppet shows or play, musical chairs or do whatever, just go in. And we always say we goof off for a good time. That was like our thing. Like, I mean, we goof off for a good cause. That was like our original motto, was what we were doing.
And I imagine for the
And
parents, it's viewed as almost respite.
oh, it is 100% respite, but we needed it too. But that's where I could see myself serving. Like, to me, like, of course I want to go to dinner with my wife, but I also want to play a rock and roll show for these kids. Like, to me, that's like the funnest you can get. I've
Yeah,
played in
that's like a
bars.
fun Friday.
Yes, like I've played in bars and that stuff since I was a teenager, and it doesn't compare to playing a um we played a concert once. The way we became an official organization is we played a concert one night, and there was a young man named Chris in a wheelchair dancing. And I'll probably cry talking about this, but it was one of those things to where you're like, what do we, like, how do we do this all the time? Sorry.
No, and that might have been, what Chris loves to do most,
Yeah,
but he doesn't
completely.
get that opportunity every day.
Completely. So once we got involved with that, we were like, y'all can have bars. We're gonna do this. So we were sort of playing these shows, and then at some point, um, Bobby, that was the co-founder of Everyday Sunshine, he said, "Hey man, um, we need to incorporate. We need to make this a thing. So that way, like at least we can get people donate video games or donate whatever,
Yeah.
or we can put on really cool stuff and write it off." He was like, but let's figure it out. So we did. And then as soon as we did, people are like, hey, can you come do this for this cerebral palsy marathon, or can you do this, or can you do Ainsley's Angels, or, and we're like, yeah. And but we were still doing our, this was our extracurricular thing. We were just doing these events. And
I feel like sometimes incorporating there opens up another channel or avenue. Like it can go from, we're having fun and we're doing these things for the kids. And you may get asked, well, do you do these types of events? But sometimes when you incorporate it, it gives some validity to, the
Yes.
enterprise. And then
Yes.
other organizations that are looking to have your services and those types of things, they're like, okay, we can move forward with this.
Right. Yes.
It's a
Completely.
big step.
It was a huge step. And there were still a lot of people who are like, what are you doing? Well, like, and somebody said one day, like, why don't you just charge money like a normal business? And I'm like, because I'm not, I don't think this is my pyramid scheme or whatever. Like, this is coming from a different place. I'm not trying to.
This is, I don't want to say charity, but it's a life work kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was, like that. But at that point in time, jobs was not on the map, like, so in 2012, Amelie would be 6 years old. So that wasn't on the radar. We were, like I said, um, doing, I don't know, like I said, a lot of concerts is what we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And then it kind of progressed from there. And then we asked Children's Hospital about doing um, some entertainment down there, because we were doing it a lot. And they said, well, you can, but you're going to have to get on this list and you're going to go through screening and you're going to do this. And then sometimes when you show up, this crew has just had chemotherapy and they don't want to hear rock and roll, like, and so we were asked to do some on-demand entertainment,
Yeah.
which we did. And we created some of this stuff. And in my mind, I thought, we're going to do this and it's going to go on the Get Well Network or whatever. And we talked to a lot of people and they said, yes, please bring us this stuff. Like, there are kids who spend months in the hospital and they're bored, like, can you please do some of this stuff? And
that's
so,
when you started creating some of the content online, correct?
yes.
So do you mind if I share that YouTube?
Yes, let me just let me just say this ahead of time. But
Yeah.
so we had this crazy ambitious idea to do this. And the local theater group here is like, yes, we're in. So they are the actors and all of this. And in my mind, this was going to be like, oh, you just film it and you put it out. And I did not know what I was doing as far as like how much work it was going to be and the editing process and all of this. And then, we were filming all the time and doing this. And then COVID shuts us down and I'm homeschooling 2 girls. And then all of a sudden we're presented with, do you guys want this space for this playground? Do you guys want this space for this thrift store? And it was like, okay, for people watching this, the TV show will come out, I promise you, but it is a monster to tackle.
Well, I think, I'm hearing a lot of entrepreneurial mindset there and kind of, we're going to go after it and figure it out along the way. Yeah. And I think others around you, when they hear that, maybe they're more willing to say, hey, I've got this thing over here. Would you be interested in that? Because I know that you're a go-getter. I know that you're going to go out and start these things. Do you want would this plot of land be good for a playground? Let's go to Jeff, because he's willing to take these steps and try and go out there and make these things happen.
Yeah, but to that point, my wife is the business. She's like the person who's like, okay, this is how you do this. And my role is dreamer. And I'm not,
she's your rock.
Yes, my role is dreamer. And that is what it is. But I think that to get things moving forward, sometimes you have to have a person who says, what if we could do X, 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 X? And then if other people encourage you, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. So right now, I think part of our role is encouraging people. Like I see what you guys are doing. So Alex, Clifton, all you guys, what y'all are doing, and I'm thinking, man, do it. Run this thing, run this ball.
Yeah.
And I think the more people we encourage and encourage us, the whole thing rises,
I
and you
agree.
feel like you're not an island, and you're not just kind of like, hey, we're out here. You're like, oh, other people are out here too.
Yeah, doing big things. And it's really cool when you start to talk to more and more of them,
Yes.
like yourself, and you getting ideas, and it's a sharing of ideas there. But everything in our rooms, everything we're using today was created by somebody that said, what if? That's it.
Yes, I agree.
So,
But you do have to have a support system behind you who says like, okay, Jeff, now we can try this, but we need to keep it between this lane and this lane, and
yeah.
in this time frame and in this budget.
Yeah, I do that too many times. Sometimes I'm trying to do 10 things. I'm like, but they're all one in the end. And it's like, no, you got to build this channel first.
Right.
So, I'm going to share this, and we won't watch the whole video, but I do want to give
Okay.
a shout out to the YouTube channel and a little bit of meeting Amelie as well.
Hi, I'm Jeff. This is my daughter, Amelie. We're working on a kids' TV show. We need your help. This show is going to go out to all 235 pediatric hospitals in the United States. It's also going to go to hundreds of places to serve individuals with intellectual disabilities.
So this is all like, I don't know how you guys did this. This is really cool.
When Amelie was born, we spent a lot of time at Children's Hospital in Birmingham, and we were blown away by the atmosphere down there. When we asked how we could volunteer or get involved, play music or whatever, they said, hey, what we really need is on-demand entertainment so the kids can watch it when they feel like it. So we started a nonprofit called Everyday Sunshine, and that's just what we're trying to do. For the past
Here's you.
For the past few years, we've been working on a TV show called This is a sketch TV comedy show for 6.
So you guys have Everyday Sunshine even before getting into some of the other things. So you knew you were going to do work in this community, just weren't quite sure exactly what it was going to look like.
Yes.
Yep. That's funny. When I came to Alabama, it was 6 years ago. We've been up and running at Alabama Care for 3 years now. I founded Alabama Care the second week I was here in Alabama. Shell company at that point, knew it was going to be something, but didn't know what it was.
Right.
And so I think it's, to plant that. It's like if you buy the ticket to go to Hawaii, you're going to start thinking it becomes a lot more real.
Right. Well, we always say that, like I can come up with ideas of what would be cool and all this. And a lot of time I'm like, God, show me the staircase. Where's this leading? And he's like, man, if I show you this staircase, number one, you're going to poop your pants. You're going to be scared to death. And number two, you're probably going to quit. So he's like, here are these first 2 steps. Why don't you knock these 2 steps out? And then we'll check out the next 2 steps.
Yeah, it's like a fog. You don't want to see all the way through because you're not going to go through with it. You're going to try and skip some steps. It's just one foot in front of the other there. Yeah. So let's talk more about the grand opening. So you have this friend in Tennessee who graciously donates an 18-wheel truck of donations.
He tried to. I couldn't take it at the time, but he did donate all kind of racks and clothes, and he gave us his manual and said, here's how you do it. And he and his wife have come down several times and got their hands really dirty putting stuff together and showing us this is how it's done. And also if I have questions, I hit him up and he says he is mentoring us and saying yes or no, or I would or wouldn't. But yes, so they're our mentors, the Crickacks are.
So where did you get the supplies for opening day?
So Dave calls his friend Tracy in Birmingham. She had at one point, she had a store that employed adults with disabilities. and they're unfortunately it had to shut down for different reasons, but she had equipment that was in a storage space for 3 years. And he put us in contact with her. And so when we reached out and said, hey, Dave sent us, we want to say hello and all this, and she said, I have a storage space of stuff waiting that has been waiting on y'all. So we're like, what? So we go to Birmingham, and she literally gives us a large U-Haul truck full to the rim of things that she has had in storage. Just gives them, right? I mean, like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of tables and counters and racks and all these things.
Yeah.
And then we put up some stuff and said, hey, we're opening this thrift. If you have donations, bring them on this particular day. One day. And on one day, we filled up 2/3 of a room that's 4,000 square feet. And then people started coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, hey, I heard you were taking stuff here.
How did you initially get the word out for that?
Yeah, just like Facebook with our friends, and we said, hey, we're launching this. This is the purpose. And so, and like Dave, our mentor, said, he said, your problem is not stuff. He said, people have stuff and they're happy to give it, especially to a mission, like, and with this mission, since, it's never just the person with disabilities or, or their, whatever their situation is. They have caretakers, they have families, they have cousins, they have people that go to church with them, school, but it goes bubble, it ripples, like we're talking about with, and so people want to see those guys succeed. So like our first day, the very first person in the door was a woman who taught some of our guys in school. So, and her whole thing was like to cheerlead. She was there to cheerlead. She wanted, she probably didn't need anything to buy. She was there to tell the guys she was proud of them.
I feel like the disability community is one of the strongest communities out there in helping families, parents helping parents, kids helping kids, the peer network there. And it's always one of the first things I recommend if there's somebody that feels like they're isolated, or you mentioned on an island, is one of our other guests mentioned it. You have to find your crew. You have to go out and you have to meet other individuals that are going through or have gone through, similar scenarios. So you can reach out and talk, but that bond there of almost going through the trenches in some types of ways.
Yes.
Of the civil rights movement that we talked about.
Yes.
Really solidifies that bond. And if there is an ask, there is a whole wave of individuals that are coming to try and make that ask possible.
Right. Or if they can't do it, they will reach out in their bubble and say, I know this person. We've met tons of people who we have never met before. And Decatur is 60,000 people, and it's not huge. We've met tons of people who are like, oh, my friend Jan told us that we had to come here because of this and da da da. And so it's dominoes. And so, the word is getting out.
So you're getting kind of the product, the supplies, the donations, but what about the individuals working there? How did you go about hiring and training?
So a friend of ours is the director of AIM, which is the high school program that Amelie is in now. But before Amelie was in that program, she was in a meeting once, and they were talking about what are we doing with our graduates? Like, what's the next step? And they were brainstorming like of things they can do. And Brianna, my friend, says to her friend Nancy, you should talk to Jeff about this project. And it turns out that Nancy Adams, who is the supervisor for North Alabama ADRS, I knew her from the restaurant that I worked in for a long time. Their office was around the corner. And so we had this meeting set up to talk about this potential project. And I don't know that this is her. She doesn't know that it's me. We just know on this email, it was just like, there's no face. And she thought like it's Jeff the bartender, or, you know, he works at that restaurant. You know, I did like the lunch crowd at this restaurant for this busy restaurant for 15 years. And that's how she knew me, was from the ADRS crew coming in there. And they taught me sign language. They would come in and my friend Ben would teach me a word every day. And so anyway, so we show up to this meeting, and when I get there, she's like, "Oh, it's Jeff," and I'm like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
Nancy." And so we knew each other already. So we had already skipped past the like, is this person for real? Is this person, you know, like, what's their deal? You know, like stuff that comes in with trying to figure this out. And
Are they going to
literally
show
the
up to
first
work
day,
every day? You know, those types of things. And
yes, yes, completely. And
Yeah.
so literally the first day I go over there, she said, what's your idea? And I say, well, it's not an idea, it's happening, but here it is. We're opening this thrift and da 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 da. And she says, we're on board. Tell me, how many people do you need? What do you need me to do? Da, 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 da. And she starts saying, I can give you job coaches, I can line this person up, and this person, this person, this person. And I think that organizations like that are waiting for people to say, hey, we'll give it a run. And part of what we're talking to her about is that um if people see us employing people with disabilities, they can go, well, they've got, you know, our first year goal at the end of the first year is to hire 8. Today, literally today, number 4 started, and we've been open 6 weeks. So it's going good, but we're hoping that people can see us and go like, we will take one person to start. We will start with one person and see how it goes.
Yep.
And
So ADR, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
no, and so ADRS is she says, give me your wish list, because I told her I've got a list of people that I've known socially, you know, and here they are. Here's my list. And so she's like, okay, I'll talk to them. So she arranges for them and their job coach to come over, and so they come in and everybody has their coach, and we figure out what we, like I said, what we want to do, what we like, what we don't like, and we start. And we just start picking away at it. And there has been some bumps trying to figure out some of the social stuff. It's been hard. Social cues and, you know, things like that. That's been our biggest thing. But these guys are showing up for work on time. They're happy to be there. They're doing awesome stuff, and it's cool.
Yeah. And I think every company or organization that has like an ADRS nearby, if you're not tapping into that resource, you are missing out.
Yes.
They are your headhunters. They're your trainers. You can outsource some of that stuff and find great employees just by partnering with them, being
Yes.
open to these types of things you're talking about. And I'm sure from their side, ADRS, they're looking, like you said, they want Everyday Sunshine to be on posters around town. Hey, hire individuals with disabilities. Look at Everyday Sunshine and the success that they're having.
Well, they told us, you know, they said people are not using this resource like they need to use it. And Nancy told me, you need to wear this out. You need to be like the person who is like, oh, you guys aren't going to take job coaches, and you're not going to take, you know, this and this and this, you know, to get, you know, to try and make a difference, whatever. She was like, she said, these resources are here.
Yeah.
But either people don't know, or they're not interested, or they think it's going to be too hard, or
Well, and hiring and training is one of the hardest processes for any organization. And if you get LinkedIn, like you said, you started out with the AIM there, which was the high school program,
Right.
and then switched over to ADRS. There are always going to be individuals coming through the high school education system and entering ADRS services. So that funnel is constant for any business that, employees leave, they go to other states. I've left jobs. So I know, how that is, but it's a constant funnel
Your friends are
for
just ahead.
great employees. We back? Okay. There
I
we
think
go.
so. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys have opened on September 20th. How many total employees do you have? You said you have currently 4 that receive services through ADRS.
Yes.
And then how many total overall?
We have 2 full-time, 2 part-time, and then four adults who receive services. Yeah. So we have
Okay,
8
so
total. Yeah, 8 total.
so 8 total, about 50%. Are you trying to mirror the 30-50 that you saw in Tennessee?
I honestly don't know. I'm just trying to be a conduit, like I said, for good stuff, man. But we have realized that we can't overextend. Like we can't employ every adult in Decatur with a disability. We can't. But we want to put a dent in the problem, and
Even like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's just like I said, our goal for the end of the first year was 8, but we're hoping that this blossoms out and does its thing, and we are hoping that in 5 years that we have like an ice cream truck, we
Yeah.
have a coffee shop, we have things like this, and it doesn't have to be the biggest or whatever in town. If we can find cool little neighborhood spots, but to where you have regulars, and that's, like I said, if we're developing relationships with people to where people who come and get coffee, they do it regularly.
Yeah.
People who get ice cream or whatever, a lot of that stuff is like repeat stuff. So you get to know people, and that's part of our biggest thing is the social is, I think before when there were, shelter workshops and stuff like that, I don't think that they meant to hide people. It was the nature of their job. But I think that it's important for someone who comes in the store with Down syndrome, say if they're younger with Down syndrome, and they see my buddy Travis, and they see someone who looks like them working in a store, they go, "Oh," and their mom goes, it plants a seed.
It's life-changing. Just like that seed planting that you just talked about.
Yeah.
You have to have that first. You got to believe it's possible to take the next steps there and try and make it work. But you got to believe it's possible. And seeing somebody else do it is a big way to make that
I'll do the
possible.
robot.
I'm sorry, what was that? I have a little bit of connection issues. It may be my computer. It looks like the cloud is getting a little dark, and my internet will sometimes go out on me. But you guys are a month and a half you've been open. You employ 8 people total. 4 of them receive services. 10 and a half months. And really, you guys are just starting out. So we want to say we're grateful for highlighting the work that you guys are doing. And we want to kind of check back in, I'd say in 6 months to a year, just to see the growth and everything that's been going on there. I'm going to give it a few more seconds to see if I can get back on. Clifton, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's him.
Okay, go ahead and mute yourself again. We're having a little bit of tech issues, guys. I'm going to give it a few more seconds here. If not, we'll just do a follow-up. We'll do a follow-up in a few months with Everyday Sunshine. Before I log off, you guys need to go subscribe to their YouTube channel, subscribe to the Alabama Care YouTube channel as well. Go to their Everyday Sunshine on Facebook. They have an Instagram, so you guys can see the cool things that they're selling here. Books, that kind of stuff. If you're in the Decatur area, please go check it out. We didn't even get to talk about the playground they're building. So go ahead and log on and do these things here. That's it for us this week. Oh, Mr. Sharp, he's coming back.
Okay, I think I might be back on now. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay,
I was just sharing all the socials.
I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. I was saying, yeah, so over the next year, we'll check back in a few weeks just to see how everything's going. Hey, quick question, in case we do have network issues again, are you guys going to be open the day before and after Thanksgiving?
But the day before, yes. The day after, this is a funny thing. So we talked about it and we're like, are people going to come? They're used to going to big chain stores and this type of thing. So we're still batting it around. And then we're trying to figure out, like, are you open during the Iron Bowl? Which is funny because my wife is from San Diego and she was like, I don't get any of this, and some of the people that work with us are from other places. And I'm like, once this game starts, you're done, nothing's going on in the thrift store. So, but yes, we will definitely be open Saturday, after, our Iron Bowl Saturday, we will be there.
Is Thanksgiving the 25th?
That sounds right.
Are you guys, the reason I'm asking, I'm going to be up there the day before and the day after. I'm not sure of the hours yet, but I can find you guys on Google too, on Google Maps.
Yes. We'll definitely be there Wednesday. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to try and swing by if I can get up there early enough.
That'd be great.
As we kind of come to a close here, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to speak to parents or individuals that receive services that you think could really benefit kind of their outlook?
Let's see. Ooh, that's a tough question.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Right. I think that, like I said, I'm a dreamer. So I want to encourage people to dream and to think, I know that some of these people have been told you can't do this, and this and this, but I want to encourage people to say, what if, and think about things that you would like to do. And I think if you toss it in the air or ask, that I think some of these things will happen. I'm not saying it's all going to happen, and it's not all going to happen on your timeline, but I do think if you put it up that you're open to these situations, whether it be employment or it be social stuff or it be, I don't know.
I think it's important to put out there, whether that's, you're speaking to your higher power or putting it out there to the universe, yes, or whatever that looks like.
100%. Yes. Yeah. I think also, like we were talking about how, so if you have a disability, you're the most unchurched, unpolitically represented, unemployed. It's like everything is on. And that's one of the things that we're trying to, like I said, chip away at.
Yep.
We're trying to chip away at it, and just trying to, our whole thing about the flag is just trying to wave hey, we're here, we're trying to put love out. I'm a Christian. this is my way to reflect, love. Whatever is one of the ways, without being preachy, we're trying to do what we're supposed to do and love people.
And it's going to take time, as you mentioned, to chip away, but it starts in our local communities, bonding together,
yes,
and meeting other individuals, making those connections. Now, what
yes,
is there an ask? Is there an ask? What can we at Alabama Care and the community at Alabama Care do for Everyday Sunshine?
I think word of mouth is stronger than anything. You know, of course, when I get invited to speak at corporate things, I say, hey, this is our playground needs this zip line, you know, and I give them my spiel and I say, you know, this is what we need. It's not so I have more money in my wallet. It's so these things happen. You know, I'm not asking for money for myself, but word of mouth is, to me, is the best thing. It's better than billboards, in my personal opinion.
No, I
Is
agree.
having the connection to where, especially like a personal connection to where people say, hey, have you tried this out, or here's their mission, you tell people about it and they go, oh, that's cool, you know. And one of our things is we are trying to be the cleanest thrift store in Alabama. That's like our thing. So when people come in, it's not like, you know, a garage sale exploded. It's like, oh, everything makes sense and it's laid out, you know. So our employees who are in chairs and things like this, they can get around. So we're trying to think about these things. I just looked into a sensory program for employees and also for people who come in shopping. So I'm trying to think, like, what does this community need? Because, you know, like, our building was from 1962. It did not have a wheelchair accessible ramp in front of the store. The bathrooms were totally not ADA compliant. And it wasn't that the church didn't care. It was like, that's when it was built. That's, you know, the church is giving us this space, but it's just like when it was built, what people with disabilities was definitely not a priority. So we went above and beyond. We made the doors wider in the thrift store so motorized chairs can get in and out. We did things like this. And I'm just trying to think, like, what if I'm in their position, what do I need? That's where I'm trying to come from.
And I think that'll be a never-ending process, but to be engaged in that process is the important thing there.
Right. And I think just to acknowledge that we don't know is a big part, or acknowledge that they have needs that we don't. You know, since we have people that are working with us who have sensory stuff that I don't have to think about. I don't have that, you know, so I'm trying to go, well, maybe we should do this because this person, you know. So it's just thinking like that. It's trying to think about what's good for other people.
Yeah, that empathy there. Mr. Sharp, so well said. I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate who you are in the community. I'm excited for everything that you guys are doing in Decatur. I'm hoping to stop by, like I mentioned before, after the Thanksgiving. And we will go ahead and put today's video on the YouTube channel. And also we're going to cut up some clips, put it on our Instagram and TikTok channels. So we're getting quite a bit of following and eyeballs on some of those shorter clips.
Awesome.
So we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll send you a link to the blog that we put up probably in about 2 weeks. So it'll have everything on there for you.
Excellent. Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate Clifton. I can't see you, but I appreciate you. And I want to say thank you all for your time and for what you're doing, and for like I said, for throwing good things into the air and seeing what lands. That's all we can do.
Yeah, that's all you can do. I always like to start off, if I'm having an idea, say, if everything went exactly correct, what would that look like? If the possibilities are endless, but if it went 100% right, what does it look like?
Or I like to think, like, if I knew all the bills are paid, what would I do? What would we do? You know, like, if you didn't have to do X and X and X, which are real world problems, I understand this, but we also, you know, again, have to dream a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Mr. Sharp, once again, thank you for your time. And to the Alabama Care community, we will see you guys next time. At this time, we'll go ahead and give